Ann, you hear us? All right, good.
Call to order for the Bylaws, Goals, Policy, and Personnel meeting on August 12th at 6:35. Roll call. Trustee Belinda's here. Trustee Monahan here. We have a quorum.
Trustee Santangelo absent.
Trustee Sandage is absent. Okay, other members present is Chris Pesco. All right. Public comments?
Any?
Any public comments? No comments? Okay. Unfinished business. Do I have a motion to approve the July BGPP minutes as presented in the committee packet?
I'll make the motion.
Mike,
Motion, second by
okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. New business. Do I have a motion to accept the 2025 holiday schedule as presented in the committee packet?
So moved.
I will second. Any discussion?
I'd like to just discuss them briefly so you could understand the methodology on the time reporting. The importance here is that we're trying to improve our hourly utilization. Okay, with the amount of vacation time, what happens at time, right now we're required that the people that are starting the day has to be here 8:30, 30 minutes before. So what happens afterwards, some people are scheduled at different times and they might come in, I don't want anybody to rush to work. So, but my point is that before people might come in at say 9:30, and then they might work till 5:30. Well, the problem with that is I want to get everybody on a schedule. Okay, and then what that means is according to the policy that I wrote, if you do come in, if your start time is 9 o'clock, you come in at 9:30, you have to report that time as either sick time, vacation time, or personal time. Because this will eliminate the amount of again, you're just adding on to more time off and you're reducing hours. And I want to reduce the amount of extra hours over 37 and a half hours. So I want to do this and at least for 1 year is my intentions of it. And we'll see how it goes. We get lax at times and I want to bring everybody in and I don't don't budget for overtime or extra hours. I don't even have a chart of account with overtime on it, okay? And in the past, people would just, work whatever, 80 hours in a 75-hour span for 2 weeks. So I'm trying to bring everything together. There's not much change in the part-time. So if you read through it, you either have an 8:30, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and a 1 o'clock start time for the full-time. And that's what we're going to work with. Okay, the last.
Can I ask you a question, Mike?
Yeah.
Are you then are you one inputting it manually then in ADP?
No,
So if
well,
comes
they
in
report their time,
Yeah.
and as I explained to them is that department heads should be reviewing their time, and then myself and Christy review the time, at the end of the week, and then like today is payday for Friday, so we're reviewing it, monitoring, because you know what. People forget to punch in and out for lunch. We have that problem. They might forget to punch out. The other thing is, which you're more aware of, and which is more important to me, is where you punch out at. The system doesn't have too many restrictions, so I don't want somebody to be punching out at 10 miles away, 15 miles away, because that means I'm paying them for that 15 minutes. And these are the things that I want to eliminate. okay?
So there's no clock that they actually punch in?
They,
in the
on their
building?
phone. They punch
Okay,
in and
so
out
it's
on their
all
phone. And there's a couple other features on it. You know, and you know what? I'm going to segue into something that I showed you last week, and I want to have a really good discussion with the board, and that has to do with us going to a PTO time bucket. What that means is, you know, currently an employee with 2 weeks gets 2 weeks vacation, 12 sick days, and 3 personal days. So it's 25 days. Full-time librarian with an MLS gets 4 weeks vacation, so you're talking about 35 days. What I want to do is, I don't want to change any of the amount per se, but put it in a bucket. And if they need to take time off, it's not a sick day. Sick days right now are being used as vacation days. I want to eliminate that because, as I explained to them, if you have 20 employees, you have 220 sick days a year. Do I have to hire a nurse? We have that many sick days being reported. So let's go to the paid time off bucket. But the one suggestion that I am making, that reason I want to have a discussion later or when we do have a full team, is I want to eliminate the 3 hours, a 3-day personal time in the bucket. And those three hours, which accounts for, 22 and a half hours time, brings another 400 workable hours into the equation. So again, I want to improve the utilization. Because if you think about it, a person that comes in, their work week is 37 and a half hours, automatically they're going to have a day off. So automatic, with the amount of time that they have off or a holiday. So we don't have the money to hire more people, but I need more hours worked. You know, any comments, please?
And I think we could probably talk about that.
Digest it.
We'll
Yeah,
talk about it later.
When it
you're in the
comes
middle
time,
of a
let's get
motion.
through,
Yeah,
yeah,
once you
yeah.
get
Oh,
through
I'm
all
sorry.
the motions,
That's
and then
Okay, the hiring policy is, you know, we reviewed it, went through it. The interview policy, I hope you all
Here,
looked at it.
Mark, we have to just
you know you got to
finish off A.
There's
here.
a motion on the table.
Oh, that's right,
for
each
the
one
approving the
individually. I am
holiday
sorry.
schedule. That's all right.
Okay, so we finished with the holiday schedule.
So with the discussion, you got to vote on
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Do I have a motion to accept the 2024-25 salary scale
I'll
as
make the
presented
motion.
in the
Oh,
committee?
sorry.
Okay, Mike, I second. Any discussion?
One discussion on that. It eliminates next year the day after Thanksgiving. It's a workable day. In the past, prior
it.
to
Well, this is salary
Wait.
scale.
excuse me?
This is salary scale.
I thought she said holiday.
No. She
Oh,
just got
I'm
done
sorry.
doing the holiday.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we said as presented. Yeah, you can see
Mhm.
that in the as presented. So I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, any discussion on the salary scale?
I'm sorry.
salary scale. So do you have anything up on the salary scale
No.
other than
No, the importance
Or
on
mid
the,
to
on
low,
the,
or-
the importance in the salary is that you after a certain time, X time, you want to get everybody to the mid-range. Now, right now, if you look at our salaries, most of them are in the 90% ranges. So that's the important thing. If they've gone up considerably, I kind of hit columns out so that you could at least look at that report.
Yeah.
So I've looked at the last survey that I got in 2022, and our salaries are actually growing up closer to what the norm is, and that was what
and that's
our
the
goal-
midpoint. The norm is
That's the midpoint.
Okay.
So, and the midpoint should arbitrarily change every year by whatever if we want to do CPI or if we want to increase it 2%. So that mid-range constantly does move.
All right. Anything else to be said about that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Do I have a motion to accept the volunteer policy as presented in the committee packet?
We'll move to accept it.
Okay, I second. Any discussion?
You know, you can motion too.
Okay,
Just say
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion passes.
Sorry.
Okay,
Can I just ask one quick question?
yes,
Have those been reviewed by Ann yet?
They've been,
Volunteer policy?
these have been sent over.
Okay. So those
These
are-
have all been reviewed, these 13. Right.
They have been? Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So in the full board meeting, they're good to go.
they're good to go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no opposed, motion passes. Do I have a motion to accept the part-time time reporting personnel policy as presented in the committee packet? I will motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
I get any discussion. That's just the same as the full time.
Same
Really,
time.
there's nothing.
Right, nothing, because they're on a
Okay.
schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed, motion passes. Okay, do I have a motion to accept the full-time time reporting personnel policy as presented in the packet? I will motion. Do I have a
Did we
second?
do that one first?
No, she said part-time. So she went, I think she's
No, I mean
got,
the first thing that we did.
hers is different
Yeah.
order,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, it was, I took it from what was on the, what you sent out.
Oh, yeah, you should, that's why I opened, you got it right there on the page.
That's all right, we
That's
got the
okay,
new one,
yeah.
we'll tell you if there's something else on there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, motion passes?
No,
Nope.
that was the part-time. So now you were looking for a motion for the full-time.
Full-time.
And you just motioned, and Mike just
Mike,
second, now you're on
okay.
discussion.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, so I have a different order. Mhm. All right, let me see which one I did.
So you still got two. You got the hiring policy and interview policy.
Okay, the library and the contract, right?
You did not do the contract yet.
Okay, so the next one is the volunteer policy.
No, you did that one.
Volunteer policy. So this is the revised, oh, sorry about the confusion.
Yeah, the one you're following, you have the board responsibilities probably
Mhm.
next, but we need the contracts and agreement procedures.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the approval of the contract and agreement procedures as presented in the committee packet? I will motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
yeah, I want to explain this one to you, because this came up again, and it's a normal thing. The reason I wrote this procedure, and I want everyone here to remember, because we have another contract that is what I think I might have explained in my notes, is an evergreen contract that automatically renews. So I'm in a situation again where contracts were signed over a period of time with a 5-year agreement, and you got to remember that you have a short period to cancel the contract. So we're stuck in again in another contract. If you remember, the elevator situation came up. So I have to wait 4 years and then make sure that 30 days before that 4 years comes up that I can expire out of the contract, the Schindler contract. This has to do with, and this is an important one because this has to do with the fire alarm and the monitoring and surveillance. Again, it's a ridiculous contract. In municipalities, I've stated before at prior meetings, the norm is you cannot sign a contract longer than the term of the president's office or the board. So I'm suggesting that we don't go no more than 4 years on anything, excuse me. It just doesn't make sense and it doesn't protect us. Now, we might get pushbacks from vendors, but you know what? We'll find another vendor. We're not going to sign a 20-year agreement. The best example is when you were growing up, your parents were charged $1.20 a month for your phone. They paid that for 40 years. You know, I don't believe in evergreen. I thought they outlawed them, but apparently they didn't. But these are the only two that I know of. We have a folder on contracts because we have to give them to the auditors. So I don't know what else is out there. You know, I'm pretty well secured upstairs with the air conditioning units and so forth. But these might be the only two contracts that are considered evergreen. So if we could all remember that, and if the next person coming in, I will definitely remind them on this one.
So, but this is a procedure. This is the procedure.
The procedures that you
guys
can't
are
do it.
passing.
You cannot.
And it doesn't mention anywhere in here about where does it say, mention about the president? Not lasting longer than the president's
I
term.
did put the
It should just
term in
be a 4-year trustee's term. is what it
Yeah.
should be.
I-
Because the president can change every year.
Yeah.
Right. The president can change. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look back at how I wrote that one.
It's probably good as it is, just because it's a
Yeah.
procedure. It's not really like a policy.
Well, it's a policy,
Mhm.
is the procedures is execution of the policy.
Right, but still, this board still has to approve,
Any kind.
any big contract
Right.
that you have coming through.
Right. I just want you to
And-
be well aware of this.
Right, and I would go, I would take a little step back, because in my experience, those longer term contracts, generally when you get to the end of it, it's an auto 1-year renewal, not a re-up of the 5-year, and that was,
Those two.
that was probably problematic. Somebody must have missed that one, because I'm surprised that somebody let that get in.
Mhm.
Because generally, there's a huge price to pay in terms of a bump up after that 5 years, right? They'll do some sort of
Yeah.
back calculation of CPI, and then
Right.
they'll hit you with
Right.
it all.
The value is not on that contract. We get stuck a bill. The elevator contract was signed, I think, in 2002.
Yeah.
Okay, fortunately for the monitoring and surveillance, that's going to expire in February. I've already executed the registered letters that we're not going to renew.
Yeah.
And we're going to go with Illinois Alarm, who we've been using. It's only, you know what? It's only a couple $100 a month, or less than $200 a month, but it's still an important issue.
Well, I don't know if you had any more discussion on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all that I have
That's
on
all?
that.
All right.
Yeah, I was
So-
gonna say for discussion too. If this is explicitly a procedure, do we need to approve this, or is this? I kind of think this is just your realm. and how
You
you're
know what, I
handling
called
with
it a
them,
procedure, but it's actually a policy. Like I said,
Okay.
there's not much difference other than the execution of a policy.
Mhm.
Well, do you want to just rename it then?
Yeah, I would suggest I would read.
Well, I think it's more informal probably than a policy too. Like,
Yeah, 'cause
I mean,
it's
it reads more as a procedure.
It's
like, you don't-
informational.
It's informational. It's good for your staff and for like institutional knowledge, but I don't think that we have to have this.
But we can, I mean, you could still pass it as a, it's not a procedure, but you could still pass it as a confidence
Yeah,
kind of thing.
sure.
Just
Like,
like,
it's just a few changes with that, like you had said, making it a max 4 years. Like in here as it is, you just have, it's the last sentence in the paragraph that starts with secondly. Just that municipalities usually don't sign agreements,
right.
Yeah.
where I think we should be more explicit and say, it should be 4 years. So just seeing if there's
Okay.
anything else like that, that's more like suggestion.
That's fine.
Well,
And we'll leave it by
are
the
you-
name?
Are you proposing that it get changed? 'Cause while
I
the
guess I would,
motion's-
yeah, I would
While the
amend it.
motion's out, you
Yeah.
can amend the motion.
I would
to-
amend to change that line to specifically say
4-year.
contracts should not exceed 4 year without approval from the board for an exception.
That's an amendment, okay.
But,
And if I could further the amendment, I would move to just remove that conclusion if we're going to make this an official policy.
Okay.
well, if we change it to a policy, then that's a different story. Maybe you should go back and write it as a policy.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable with that.
because the committee
Because
can always.
then it's on the books and it has to be reviewed every
Yeah.
2 years, so
Mhm.
the
Because
next
then the committee can
audience
always
will
table
know.
it while you make it into a
Okay.
policy. Because I would like to also see, in addition to the should not exceed 4 years, and nor any renewal period should exceed, and, 1 year coming out of the 4 year. Any automatic renewal parameter should not exceed.
Well,
1 year.
the 4 years implies that it's only gonna be a 4-year agreement. and
Agreed,
No
but-
automatic renewal.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what the policy
But
should
then
say.
you can say no automatic renewals.
Yeah.
But you should probably have an automatic renewal because you don't want to be, yeah, you don't want it to lapse because somebody didn't catch it. And now your services get pulled on you and you're rushing at the last minute to reestablish the service. That just means if you miss it, you're only locked in for another year before you can,
Okay.
and that gives you enough runway to find somebody else.
That makes sense. You
Okay.
just have it for 1 year,
Yeah.
because you wouldn't
Alright.
want to miss anything. All right, so we're going to table this?
Yeah.
So,
You had the
Yes, we need
motion.
a- Yeah, we have a motion that's open that we have to vote.
So you can
against.
amend your motion to table this
yes, I
for the
will,
creation of a new policy.
so I will motion to amend, to table for next time.
You are amending your motion to table to the next BGPT meeting.
Okay, and
I will second that.
you will second it. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Now, the next thing that, for discussion is the library board responsibilities, so do we need to motion on that for discussion?
Just a discussion on that one. Just clarification. I think one of the things that will continue is the director notes should clarify a lot of that. I just want to make sure that the roles, responsibility, and what I have to do is clearly defined. Meaning, I understand that anything HR with the employees I handle. It's more or less what your roles are with the overall library. That sometimes I get a little bit confused, or maybe I think, trustees have mentioned that they, maybe want to be more involved. Just, I want the rules of the road clearly stated for me so I know what to follow. I mean, Mike, Trustee Monahan, what are your expectations?
I was gonna say, that was in, you had written something up, right? That was in
Yeah,
the packet that you emailed.
Yeah.
Not in this paper one.
the first part is from the Illinois Act on
Yeah,
it that I
uh-huh.
used. The second part, I think I was gonna have it as a supplement. Yeah, it is in the original packet.
Okay, yeah, I found it. No,
I
my
mean-
thoughts, if you ask me, like you had said, and that's why I even question when we need to approve a procedure, because I think that's,
Yeah,
that's kind of falling under your realm, and I want to make
Right.
sure that those lines
right.
are clear.
Right. And, we know the data's important and we're moving toward that.
Mhm.
We know the director's note will keep you more informed of what has occurred. And then next month, I'll probably add a section on what's next for the future month. I think we need that. Definitely need that. So I think the format is set. I have the time available finally now to do that. So I think everybody will be a lot more informed on what's going on. And
Yeah,
then,
and I'll just say my request for more information in the director's report, or more of a detailed picture of what was going on, was not
no, I thought
intended
that,
to question. It was just like, how do we gauge
Right.
that the overall
no, and
library is moving forward if we don't have a...
right, and
the
that's
snapshots.
why. Well, indirectly, I've been wanting to write something like that. I've written papers like that my whole life, and now, with the policy slowing down and the appraisals and evaluations going down, I have more time to do that. And knowing the whole process a lot better. So I think it's a great idea. I used to have to write it to executives what's going on in that. And you know what? It's nice so you can see exactly like with the programming what's going on. You know, I want to keep it to important things. You know, I don't want to write about 2,000 people coming through the door. But I'm looking forward, and we'll talk about later library IQ. But I think we're moving in the right direction. You know,
And again, my only point with the stats too is I think if they're being collected,
we,
which they have to be, and they are for IFLAR,
Right.
if it's just a matter of
right. No,
making it into
wholeheartedly.
a graph and putting it in the packet.
Wholeheartedly. You know, right now I'm auditing all the programming stats for the prior year to make sure that I'm comfortable with the information, and I'm trying to make them tie it into the IFLA report to make it easier for me. You know what that report's like. You know, so that's what.
Yeah,
I'm
once you
trying
have
to
that
do.
system, that's good.
Yeah, so we're trying to do that, and it'll get better each month. One thing you notice with staff and myself, we try to improve on things there all the time. So that's our goal. My goal is to keep improving the letter and including more information.
But so in your discussion of the library board responsibilities,
Yeah.
you're pretty much wanting to know, what do we want outside of these, right? Okay, because I have, I've talked to you about some of these before,
Right.
so you know what my feelings are on
Right.
this, so I don't need to reiterate that here, so.
Is there anything else that?
No.
Specific,
Do you have
yeah.
anything, Mike? I mean, Trustee Monahan? But drop me a note, like you did over the weekend. I appreciate the email.
I think that,
Just one thing left.
So that was more informational,
yes.
Yeah.
so that wasn't really a motion. But what about the hiring and interview policies,
Oh, okay.
and,
So I think that was, we,
right?
Yeah,
Are those,
would like, once you do it, a discussion, make a couple comments about that.
okay, do I have a motion to accept the approval of the hiring policy as presented in the packet? I will make the motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
I think this is just like the other one, right? So this reads less like a policy, more like a procedure or informational for the staff kind of thing? Does it need to be a policy? Or-
I believe it needs to be a policy.
Because you make it a policy now, you have to follow these
Right.
steps, right?
Well, you know what? We should be following it. Most libraries do. All libraries probably do. And this is hiring, and as I stated, for full-time employees.
Yeah, because it seems like this is more guidance that you can give to the staff, right? So,
Yeah.
for instance, so the library, the job posting, this may include, but is not limited to the following, right?
Right.
So it's very nebulous, if you will, right? You should do this, but you don't have to, kind of thing. Whereas a policy to me would be more, you must in at least 3 different publications, or depending on the. Yeah, so that's why I'm kind
Yeah.
of wondering about the goal of the policy itself.
You know what? I'm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that helps to have that context. Thank you.
So it's more of a procedure than a policy.
But if we had it as a policy, I mean, you could write into that policy to differentiate if it is an internal hire, or build
Yeah.
into that jobs are posted internally for 2 weeks prior to being posted on these places. I think we've covered it with that. I do think it does warrant being a policy, especially as we talk through that. and you might not be surprised to hear, I think that the professional networks, the job posting priority should be with like the Rails board. So I would move to table this policy for a revision.
Then I suggest you discuss with with Director Consiglio what changes you would suggest,
Yeah.
and then I'll go back to the committee for Trustee
Why don't-
Wallace and Trustee Santangelo to discuss, and then for the full board to discuss.
Trustee Money, I won't think about it. Send me a text. It'll be easier. You have time to think about it than me writing them down.
Yeah.
Internally posted for 2 weeks and that.
So
Okay, so I will.
change your motion to table.
I will amend the motion to table the approval of hiring policy.
I'll
Do
second.
you second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And if something is presented as a procedure, it should be noted on the agenda as a discussion.
Well, it depends on if you guys are gonna approve it. There's no structural about it.
Okay.
So does that mean you just want to treat that as informational for the interview procedure / policy?
But it's,
Procedure and-
you know what? I am open to whatever the board wants, to be honest with you. I'm here to serve you, and I made a suggestion, and I'm open to rewriting it or whatever. I mean,
I like it as a procedure or suggestions for the staff, because if I were to rewrite it, it's going to be a behavioral interview, and you're going to be doing a behavioral interview for anybody.
well, no, we're talking about the hiring. The interview is totally
Oh,
different.
okay.
Yeah, the interview,
Well, that's been tabled. That's been tabled to go back.
The hiring.
As
And
I
Right.
say, we
yeah.
can't undo that. We
Right.
voted to
Right.
table that.
okay, on the interview procedures,
On
Let's-
the
when we
interview.
get to the interview discussion,
Okay.
then let's talk about
on the interview procedures, just so you know, it's a series of 20 questions. What's important here is.
Wait, so you're saying that's a discussion, not, you're not looking to pass something for the interview?
I have,
policy.
I am looking to pass it.
Okay, that,
Well, no, excuse me, I had it listed as a discussion first because
okay,
I had thought that you might,
Mhm.
that we would need to get into it in detail or have a disagreement in some of the questions.
Right.
And what my methodology and the whole question is, what's important here is getting the right candidate. And again, the questions are based on what my vision of what the library is and going to be in the future. Okay, with and I could tell you, I could talk a little bit about the 300 surveys that I got over the weekend and what the push is. The push we've known right along, and we didn't have to do surveys to tell you, is programming. Okay, so programming just introduces a whole different type of an individual, of a specialty. So the first 10 questions are driven to make sure that we're interviewing the right type of person that we want going forward. The second half of the interview more or less gets in the information, into the details of their library experience. And that was my thought process, and that's how I kind of explained so staff will know when they're going through the questions what to look for. In my experiences, we talk about mirroring and cues, all different types of cues to look for. So I want staff to be a little bit more aware of it, and plus, we got to make sure we get the right candidate. We've been very fortunate so far, but now as we're going forward, we could be more selective, and there's other things that I want to get into that I've talked about before, and I was always a big proponent proponent of personality testing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a series of 300 questions. The one that I took 40 years ago, it's still true, is the Minneapolis personal profile. I think it's a great learning tool. I think it's good for staff. If I ever find it at a reasonably price, I would get it for a lot of staff. So it's a good training tool. It tells you a lot about it if you get the right test. And we want to get the right person here, and we want to be able to see which person we think has the passion and the desire to succeed. That's not going to be a 9-to-5 person, you know. So these are the traits that I want to bring out in the questioning and the 10 questions that I have in the beginning of it. And then we'll just, you know, staff has a greater list of questions too on the technical side. But this is a start, this is a guideline, and it's a procedure.
Maybe recognized. Maybe chair.
He wants to be recognized.
You don't
Yes,
need a motion.
yes.
So, marrying this up to library board responsibilities, to me, this is just up to you to apply. Because I don't need
Yeah.
to know how the sausage is made. If you're asking me for feedback on suggestions for making the sausage, I can add some fennel or whatever, happy to do that. But I don't think it's in our purview to have to approve for you something that you're managing the staff with, unless I'm not
I
seeing that.
agree with you. I agree with you, but you know what? The one thing you could ask staff that I stress is I like to do things in a group situation because I'm looking at this analytically,
Sure.
okay? And I'm looking at from my past experience, and I might be overlooking something. I'm always concerned about that. Trustee Monahan is very good at the procedures, and he catches things.
Mm-hmm.
You're very good, like me, on the analytical side, looking at it, and everybody brings something else to the table. I'm looking more for opinions a lot of times,
Yeah.
and then we'll put the whole thing together how you all agree on how you want it, and then I execute that policy or procedure. That's what I'm looking at. That's why I'm writing these up, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Because, I feel like it shouldn't necessarily have to be something etched in stone, going
No.
forward. So if you're here, the next director might have a slightly different
Right.
way to handle. As long as you're
Right.
getting the results, to me, it
Right.
doesn't matter. But if they're not going to getting results, then it's going to matter.
Well,
But then it's going to show in their performance. So,
a lot of it, what I'm trying to do, again, as I said, the librarians know how to work in a library.
yeah,
And I want to teach them how a library works. I want to teach them as much as I can about the operational side of a library. So if they go on, I'm trying to develop people with a career path from the lowest level up and just teach them things. Now, if they absorb it, if they want to absorb it, that's totally up to them. But I'm trying to fill the gaps where I see what they need to know.
right.
And some of them might not be directors. I mean, it just might not be. So, there's many more things that I want to get with staff on.
And I would say the biggest gap is the lack of business sense.
Right.
And being able to,
Right.
like you said, operationally run. But again, for me, that's up to you to decide
Yeah.
how you want to manage your staff and train your staff.
And
As long as we get results, then as a trustee.
exactly. But like I said, it'd still be nice to get everyone's opinion on it.
Oh, sure.
I mean, we could do it outside the normal agenda, and I send it out and say, Trustee Monahan, what do you think? Trustee Alice, what do you think? As long as I get input. Again, I'm afraid that I want to make sure that I've caught everything that I need to catch.
Sure.
I'm old now.
No,
so
I
it's a lot
appreciate
different. I'm not
reaching
what I
out for that
was.
Feedback, but you could do that. That's true with anything. Your director's report with anything.
Right.
It's just get
Right.
feedback,
Right.
outside the meeting.
And and that's a good point about the director's report. You could send a topic to me if anybody wants any information, how something is going that I might not list. Again, we all have. I want to make sure I don't have tunnel vision, but I just don't want to miss anything that you want to know, that you need to know.
Yeah, I would just say, I think you did it correctly, the initial agenda where this was under discussion, and I welcome the opportunity to give input, but I wouldn't want you to take anything we say as, if I make a suggestion, you don't have to do it. You know, for something like this, if we're a policy and we voted,
Then,
you have to do it,
Sure.
Right.
then you have to do it, so. As
That's-
long as it's clearly under discussion, we're not voting on it.
yeah,
Yeah, well, there's no motion.
I think it's perfect, yeah, there's
So
no
it's
motion
been
for
moved
it.
to discussion.
okay. So what I take it is on situations like these, I could put in as a discussion to get feedback.
Sure,
Mhm.
especially from the committee.
I'm
You can
happy
also
with
solicit
that.
us for feedback anytime as you're building. it,
Right.
too.
And then you might decide that it should be a policy and not a procedure, or written as a policy
Mhm.
and not as, I'm happy with that.
Also,
Hopefully I don't have
if it's
more
a
than 10
policy,
more.
as one voice, I like a policy to be like as tight as possible. You know, especially if we're looking every 2 years. So once things start getting lengthy and there's like an if this, then that, and different scenarios, then we're probably at procedural
Well,
territory. And that's
you
on
know, reviewing a lot of different libraries, none of them, I mean, I've followed suit with what the previous administration's done here, and they write everything in pretty good detail.
Mhm.
The other libraries don't. You know, it might be a sentence, or they might have all their policies on 3 pieces of paper.
Yeah, or they could be deferring to just the state or library association policies, right?
Yeah.
Because these
could,
kind of supersede that.
could. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you see that? I mean, I know you were at the one library that's is pretty good to follow is Arlington Heights, in almost every aspect. So I always go back there. I refer there. They're pretty much in detail, but you know what? I do know that they have the $10 million or $7 million that they could have people specifically to do that.
There's a lot of time spent,
There's a lot
you
of
know,
time
working
spent,
on all those things.
you know.
Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, I think I got the roadmap for discussion. And I appreciate any input.
All right, so I think that was,
That was it? We
Yeah.
covered everything? So I'd like to make the motion to adjourn. Any second?
Second.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
He's ready.
All right, let's start the meeting of the Elmwood Park Public Library Board of Trustees at 7:33 PM. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Okay, trustee Monahan,
Here?
trustee Gordon, absent. Trustee Narayan. Here. Trustee Santangelo, absent. Trustee Belinda's here. Trustee Fosco.
Here.
Trustee Pesco.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. And just so, for your information, Director Consiglio, Trustee Gordon gave me a call saying that she got pulled into work because of vacations. So,
Okay.
and she's low man on the totem pole. And I think you already knew that Trustee Santangelo was already going to be missing the meeting.
Right.
All right, our account balances today totaled in our general fund wind trust bank account is $883,765.76. That's as of August 7th. The total gift fund also as of August 7th stands at $16,730.54. Also as of August 7th, the total building fund stands at $127,042.07. Our total cash balance of $1,027,538.37 remains as of August 7th. Our general fund year-to-date expenditures for 24-25 are $661,114.21. Again, that's also as of August 7th. On our consent agenda tonight are the approval of the July 2024 board meeting minutes, the approval of payroll for August 2024, the approval of the medical insurance for September 2024, the acknowledgement of the treasurer's report, the approval of the IMRF check for September 2024, and the approval of the general fund disbursements for August 2024. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda as presented in our board packet tonight?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee
Second.
Belendis moved, seconded by Trustee Narayan. Any discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, will you call the question?
Trustee Monahan,
Yes?
trustee Narayan,
Yes.
trustee Belinda's yes, trustee Fosco,
Yes.
trustee Pesco.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Any correspondence for us, Madam Secretary?
I don't have any correspondence.
All right. Moving on. Public participation.
We had our garden walk on, July 20th, Saturday, and I want to thank Trustee Santangelo for attending. We appreciate the support of the village and, of the constituencies of the village. And then I want to acknowledge the amazing staff here, for their assistance, they gave us in pulling this event together. John Bohannon helped me when I was foundering with the Canva design of our program. He's a genius with that app. And helping me one Saturday made me late to his D&D session for that day. Jeff helped me make friends with a very complicated copy machine. While he was handling 2 or 3 other patrons, he did a beautiful job with that. Gabby and Adon took my design for a teapot, and with that laser cutter, turned it into something that we will be proud to present to our garden hosts and thank you. Also, one of our garden hosts dropped out in the last week. So I was kicking around ideas with John, and I said, maybe we just tell him to come to the library. And there's 3 beautiful gardens out there, so we did. We put that on our program as an insert. So I just wanted to tell you, I love working with these helpful and creative young people, and be proud of them.
Thank you very much
Thank
for the
you.
feedback. Any other questions or comments? All right, moving on. Library Director's Report, the Director Consiglio, the floor is yours.
Okay. as you all know, in your packages included a written director's report. And there's a few things that I'm going to go over. But first thing I want to talk about the garden. We have some changes, Donna, that the front area where cars usually go through our windows, the Public Works is going to help us. We're going to have a garden out there. So our plan next year is to have a garden. The picnic bench that's on the side of the building is going to be moved in front, so you can't drive a car through. But people like to sit, and they'll have a garden back there. And that's all because of Public Works volunteering to do the work. So, I mean, it's great when you see the teamwork that goes on in the village now, and it's really nice. And I'll tell you, in the 20 months I've been here, one of the things, and staff will agree, because of my coaching of young girls and having daughters and all female cousins, what's important, and I've always recognized, is the self-esteem of children. This American Girl Doll program or book club has expanded from basically 7, 8 girls to over 25 now. But the part that makes me happy, one of the things I wanted the team to initiate is what I always did, was called the name game. Everybody gets around in a circle, and they repeat their name, and they go around till they know all their names. Well, a lot of them become friends. The parents are there. We have so many people, we have to move it down here. But something happened on Saturday that really touched me, and Jessica's going to talk about what happened there.
So, one of the girls that is a part of our team, she not only invited us as coworkers, as, people that work here at the library, to her birthday party, but she invited pretty much all of the girls in the group to attend her birthday party as well. So, it was myself, Miss Francesca, Miss Anna, and Miss Alex who decided to pay a tribute, because unfortunately Miss Courtney, who's part of our club, was able to attend. But it was just an exhilarating event because, number one, obviously, we were a part of something as, intimate as a birthday party for an 8-year-old girl. But another thing, too, is that she just recently moved to Elmwood, and the fact that she had, I think it was 8 or 10 kids total that attended. A couple of them from the American Girls Club that we're able to go to. So that was a beautiful event to go to. And then obviously since we were invited as well, it was a really good experience. I think we definitely thrive off the girls getting to know each other and having that sense of community within a book club. Something so obscure, whatever. It's they're dolls, but they represent more than just being dolls. So that was definitely nice to be a part of. And then knowing too that our book club is expanding. So like Mr. Completely said, it was less than 10 girls, now we're more than 25. So we're definitely hoping for more girls to be involved in that.
Thanks for providing it.
Yeah, another thing that I think we need to, I want people out here, I do have a copy of the director's report there if anybody wants a copy of it, but the other important thing that occurred was, and this was all based on conversations I said with State Rep Hernandez and Congresswoman Ramirez, is when we initiated the Spanish camp, and you could see in the report how much it's grown and how big it is. But again, we were approached, and it was noted in some of the surveys, which I'm going to talk about next. But Jessica, could you explain to them about the responses that you've got about it, and what the parents want us to do now?
So obviously it started in the beginning of June, and it was 6 weeks for 2 times a week. It was honestly an incredible event. I wasn't expecting the response that I got from it. Very excited to do it, and I'm happy to do it again. Obviously, that's something that I will continue to do. Some of the responses that we did get from the survey was that some of the parents wanted for me to bring it back. So I will. So in December, I will definitely bring it back for a couple weeks, especially for the little layers, which is very known in the Hispanic community. And yeah, it's very humbling, very exciting. So good to be part of that.
268 participants.
Wow.
I mean, that explains a lot.
That's awesome.
fantastic, and we're going to keep moving toward that direction. Now, the past weekend was the taste of Elmwood Park, and our booth was forever busy. Last year, we were able to get 132 surveys. This year, we reached approximately 300. Okay, we had a great turnout. Regarding the turnout for the girls, the children, and what they had to do was over 1,200. So we have all that information, and it was fantastic. Now, I know we all want to hear about the survey results. Okay, I kind of read through them briefly, most of them, and I could tell you this: up till up to Saturday, the 98% were all from Elmwood Park. The last day, we received a bit more, so I expect that 10% of the people surveyed lived outside of Elmwood Park. So that gives us a great sampling. What I'm going to do in putting together the analysis for the next board meeting is that I am planning to look at this thing a few different ways. I'm going to look at it for the people from Elmwood Park, and then I'm going to look at it for the people that don't live in Elmwood Park. And what I'm going to look at is how each age group, the one type, is look at each age group and where they see us. I honestly could tell you that I think there was there was 15 questions, but there was really, I think, 6 or 8 questions where you would write dissatisfied in that. And I got to tell you, I think it's less than 10 questions where people might have said dissatisfied too. And I could also tell you the people that did do that, they either didn't live in Elmwood Park or they were under the age of 18. Now next year I'm going to think about, and we could discuss it and the board could decide, is maybe we don't survey children under the age of 18. We're not getting, I don't know, we know that that's the audience that we want to reach the most, them and the seniors. We know that. We know every response that we got was basically more programs. That was the big thing, and it was a lot for the children, and a lot for the adults and seniors, and a lot of things that we're already doing. But it's definitely, you could see that one, we need to promote everything a lot more, better than what we're doing, and we have to constantly do what we're better at doing all the time. We're reaching out to the grade schools starting next month. In a week or so, we'll be sending out that the book club. What is it called? The virtual backpack. So to notify our programs for the youth. P&G has grown. Every program has grown. But getting back to this, to it, that it was fantastic. The responses were very satisfied and satisfied. There were some neutral, but it far exceeded last year's. There were only a couple negative remarks, and you know what? I really want to point them out because the one kind of bothered me, and that's why I want to further go through the results and their comments and see where they're at. Is somebody complaining about something that said we were very satisfied? But one of the comments was about a trustee that person is rude. Okay? It's just an opinion. That's an opinion. There are opinions on it, but there's hardly any negative responses. There was one other written note, and I'm going to include it in the director's report next month, and when we further go into the data, maybe come out. But it's a person wrote, and I believe it was a woman from Elmwood Park wrote, I remember a couple years ago during the election, a couple of people came to my door and told me all these negative things about the library. I decided to check it out for myself. I was not surprised to find out it was a bunch of lies. The staff is fantastic and helpful. The energy that they provide during their programs make it a wonderful experience. I expressed my feelings to my friends, and we all agree we love the library. And I had so many other survey responses. We love the library, continue, and you'll get all that data in every response. But
Look forward to getting it.
yeah,
That's
it was very satisfying on that. The other thing, the last item that I have, and I want you to know, 2025 budget's coming up, not that far away. I want to have a meeting with the village, with President Pesco, and meet with the village manager and Mayor Saviano. And what I want to talk to them about, to make sure that our vision of the library and their vision, which requires money, is on the same plane. I want to make sure that they understand, because I'll tell you, one of the comments, and getting back to the survey that was obvious, and it was on more than 10, people complain about the library, this room, updating. So that was a common thread that was going on about how the library looks, and we know that. We've been here 20-something years, and it's old. Now, what's amazing about it is all the things that we've done, because now you can see the books. We have lights throughout the building, LED lighting, inside, outside. The place is painted and cleaned upstairs and in the back offices, but there's still a lot to do. You know, just in the book shelving and all of that. I mean, we will be building a maker space, and who knows what we'll be able to build when we get the additional funding for 2025. So I want to have a meeting with them and just see what they're willing to invest in the library. Because what is happening, and the drill in the next 2 weeks is going to be, is we're going to see what time this room is available. Because no longer that room upstairs for the programs, like I said before, where we could have 10 kids, which what the program was before, can't have it. We only have this room available. Now, we've had some discussion about the room downstairs, because last month we had over 700 kids go to the gaming lab. So we're kind of talking about possibly moving that upstairs into 2 separate rooms, you know, that whatever the people on the headphones and versus the ones on the machine. We might do something up there. And that'll give us more room, a bigger space. The problem is we only got one room that you could put more than 15 people in. That's the problem that we have. And that problem is going to continue, because if everybody's doing their job, we're going to have more and more people at the program. So we're going to bottom out. There'll be a point in the reason I want to go through that exercise, then I know how many programs we could do. I need to know that. I mean, opening up Fridays, the programs are going to start in September, so we'll have some leeway there. Some of the organizations in town would like to use the facilities in the summer because they just don't, the seniors, or I think it's the seniors with Linda, they cancel their meetings in the summer because they can't have it over by SK. So we'll see if we can have a space for them to do it here. They love to continue their meeting. I'm going to the adults meeting with Tina Gordon tomorrow, because they're having an event on the 30th, and we're going to have a table there and present everything that we're going on. Well, we've still got to continue our communication, you know, and you'll see that on some of the feedback. People are asking questions that, wait, we're doing that already. But that's one person pointing out that we might not get it. You know, one person asked, can you communicate to the neighborhoods, more to the neighborhoods? Well, the person lived in Chicago when I lived there, you know. So we get to the schools, but we got to find the easiest way for us to get to the people that aren't coming to the library. That's our goal. That's our main goal. And how we do it is by getting involved in the civic communities, joining groups. But that's all that I wanted to go through.
Awesome. As usual, if you have any questions for the director, please feel free to see him afterwards. You should be approaching him before, when you get the director's report, and asking him questions then as well, before the meeting as well.
Great report, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Building committee, since 2 of our building committee members are not out and there was no meeting, I assume there's
Nothing to report.
there's nothing to report, but, okay. And moving on to our BGPP. So Bylaws, Goals, Policy, Personnel Committee.
Okay,
Trustee Belendez.
we have several policies that need to be approved. So do I have a motion?
You're
to-
motioning.
I'm motioning.
Yeah.
I'm motioning to approve the full-time reporting personnel policy. Do I have a
As
second?
presented in the packet.
As presented in the packet.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Monahan. Any discussion on that?
The contract policy?
No, this is for the full-time reporting.
Full-time employee.
Oh, wait, no, I was just looking at the approval of contracts and agreements proceed, sorry.
Okay, we'll get to that. Any other discussion on the full-time reporting
No,
policy? Is there a motion on
That
the
was
table?
fine.
All in favor?
Oh, second does my job. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Do you have another motion to make?
I would like to, motion for approval of the part-time reporting as presented in the packet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Made by trustee Monahan. Any discussion on that one? Awesome. All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And
Okay.
then, do you have any other
I'd like
motions?
to make a motion to approve the 2025 holiday schedule as presented in the packet.
Motion by trustee Belendez. Do I have a second? Seconded by trustee Norian. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, Mike, I just had a question. I just wanted to clarify. I kind of missed it on BGPP, the order we went. Were there we have four fewer holidays in the last, say, 2 years?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because the four fewer, because the prior administration allowed for the day before Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and that expense was not in the budget, never. And that expense is way too much for us to afford an extra day off. And we shouldn't be closing the library the week of Christmas. We should be open.
It should be open because the kids are
Right,
on
we
vacation.
should be open.
What was it, the day before Christmas Eve? Is that
It
what
was
it
the day before
The
Christmas
day before
Eve.
Christmas Eve.
And the day before New Year's Eve. And Trustee Fosco, one of the things you might not have noticed in the schedule for holidays, we are next year going to be open the day after Thanksgiving. We used to be closed, so we're going to be open.
Any other discussion? All right, for this one, Madam Secretary, will you call the question?
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Trustee Narayan? Trustee Belendez, yes. Trustee Fosco?
Yes.
Trustee Pesco?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
I'd like to make the motion for approval of the 2024-25 salary scale as presented in the packet.
Motion by trustee Belendez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Monahan. Any discussion on that?
Nope.
I'll just make a mental note for folks that we're near the midpoint, so, for just about most of our salaries.
Right.
So,
We're at 90%. There's three categories, and we want to get everybody near the midpoint, and everybody's about 90% of the midpoint.
The midpoint.
Yeah. There's a minimum and then a
Right,
maximum.
right.
So,
Okay, so that involves money. Going to call that question as well. Madam Secretary?
Okay, trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Trustee Narayan? Yes. Trustee Belendez, yes. Trustee Fosco?
Yes.
Trustee Pesco?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the volunteer policy as presented in the packet.
Motion by trustee Belendis. Do we have a
I'll
second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Narine. Any discussion on that one? All right, that one's okay. Doesn't need the call vote. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
And I'd like to make a motion for the hiring of adult service part-time librarian associate Aranza Mondragon.
Motion by trustee Belendis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by trustee Narine. Any discussion on that? So any, okay. All right, since this, go ahead and call this one. Since this is money.
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Trustee Narayan? Yes. Belendis, yes. Trustee Fosco?
Yes.
Trustee Pesco?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So. Anything else to report?
We are tabling the approval of the hiring policy, going back to the committee. The interview policy is going back for a discussion along with the contract and agreement procedure.
On that one, there is a typo.
So, the suggestion on that, then, trustee Vasco, is to meet with trustee Consiglio on any of these that they've tabled as a committee. Feel free to bring it up to trustee Consiglio so he can massage and change. He was also looking for feedback on the interview policy, so if you want to give him any feedback on that.
Okay.
And also in your packet is information on the library board responsibilities. I think that's what trustee Belendis just said.
Yes. And if there's any comments, the director would like to hear any inputs for all those that are tabled.
Cool.
And that's it.
All right, thanks trustee Belendis. Finance committee, trustee Fosco, I don't think you have any report today?
Nothing there.
Nothing to do. We have no unfinished business. As far as new business, do I have a motion for the closing of the library for staff day on Friday, September 22nd?
I'll make a motion.
By
Second.
trustee Narayan, seconded by trustee Fosco. Any discussion on that? So this is for a staff development day. This is our fall version of it.
Well, yeah, but this one's gonna be focusing on the 30 new policies and procedures. That we're gonna make sure that we go through each one of them. And they will get them probably in the next week or so, and there will be a test. We're gonna go through them. We're gonna make sure that they know it's 9 and under unescorted children. They're gonna know the evacuation policy. They're gonna know everything that we've been approving that you've been approving the policies. I wanna make sure that we go through them. You know, it's much like the saying is, they hear you, but they might not be listening. They might read it, but they gotta know it. Because we've had some instances that we need to know what to do and when to do it and who to contact.
Cool. Any discussion, other discussion on that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I just noticed that it's the same day as the sock hop event.
Yes, it is.
I
It
like
is.
that as far as,
Yeah, no, that's what we wanted to do.
okay.
So you close for staff day and then there'll be prep day for
Right.
sock hop as well.
Right.
Uh,
Well, I
Oh,
plan to go
first.
to at least 2:00. You know, we'll have a break in between, some kind of,
Lunch. or
something to do besides lunch. And then make sure that we cover all of the, policies that we need to cover. And it even goes to how to report your time. So, it's gonna be a packed full day.
Awesome.
So you'll end that early enough in the day to
whatever.
make up for whatever hours are spent clocked in
For the sock
for the soccer.
Right.
Right.
How many, I just have a question. How many people, like staff, would be going to up?
How many are going?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. What do I expect? I expect half. Last year at the last one event we had almost 100%. This one, they have to pay.
Oh,
Well, that's far afield of the question.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the question
sorry.
on the table is closing for the staff day. Motion by trustee Narayan and trustee Fosco. Be there no discussion, please call the question. Secretary Belinda.
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Trustee Narayan?
Yes.
Trustee Belundis, yes. Trustee Fosco?
Yes.
Trustee Pesco?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Do I have a motion to retire to executive session, discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees per 5 ILCS 120/2C1?
So moved.
And also, motion to consider meeting minutes lawfully closed under the act pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C21.
Again, so moved.
Moved by trustee Fosco,
I'll second.
seconded by trustee Belundis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will go into executive session.